Hello guys, good morning. My name is Luis Manuel Ortega and I'll be talking about advantage, disadvantage, our conclusion and our conclusion. Here we're going with this topic development. Let's begin with advantage.
Advantage. Interpreted advantage is related to the work of the teacher, were much less than the observed ones about the students. The reason was that the teacher was not the central focus or the main source of information, and hence, focus was more on the students who were making action. Among the advantages that described the work of the teacher included that he is modeling the role of a facilitator as he is passing among group, providing them with guidance, monitoring groups' works. Carefully analysis of the two categories of observational data relate to the advantages and disadvantages of the implementation of TBLT method showed that the advantage and disadvantage went along with or supported by the interpreted trend earlier. Examples of advantage related to the learners included: number 1, teacher frequently used his sense of humor, always is up. Number 2, students are very active in terms of asking questions and sharing responses to each other. Number 3, negotiation of meaning is always present among group of students while listening passage. Number 4, teacher feels satisfied because students bring the teaching of abstract knowledge to application in the real world. Number 5, focus is on students since they tend to speak far more than their teacher. Number 6, presence of peer is learning as students. Number 7, students' meaning comprehension is always the ultimate aim targeted by the practice involved in TBLT lesson.
This topic will be disadvantage.
Disadvantages. According with our and other points of view, disadvantages were equivalent in terms of number. Related to the advantage about the teacher's works is doesn't involve effort at all. I mean, students make teacher performance outstanding even though these be insignificant in terms of meaning. Disadvantages are: number 1, the most prevalent disadvantage about the implementation of the TBLT method. It is demanding on the teacher mental requirement and physical attendance. Number 2, when the teacher leaves homework as a team, not all students are willing to collaborate. Number 3, TBLT requires a highest level of creativity and initiative of the part of the teacher. Number 4, TBLT requires results of beyond the textbook and related materials usually found in language classroom. Number 5, evaluation of task-based instruction can be difficult. The nature of task-based learning doesn't allow it to be immediately measurable. Number 6, it doesn't have clearly defined practice. And number 7, time's requirement. At last but not least, implementing TBLT requires more time, and hence any unintended loss of time might easily lead to the failure of achieving the main goal of the lesson as planned. At the last teaching via the TBLT method was not easy to work for the teacher and required certain skills and background about the TBLT method before implementing on the classroom, and which the requirement teacher had while he was teaching.
Let's talk about author conclusion.
Outer conclusion, and I apologize, people, if I spend a little more time, so if I go further more than the screen said, but believe me, it is needed. As indicated earlier in this chapter, the application of those methodologies allows students to carry out their communicative task using the elements of language learned in previous class or in other sources of information. They had a chance to talk and write about how they did the task and compare their findings. The use of teaching aids with oral recording or reading text guaranteed him to broaden his communicative experience and get in touch with authentic language structures. On the other hand, exchanging with other students who have already carried out those tasks or deal with the same topics directs their attention to specific aspects of forms of language that occur naturally and promote feedback, and therefore raise the quality of learning the English language. Text-based language teaching challenges mainstream views about language teaching, in that is based off the principle that language learning will progress most successfully if teaching aims simply to create context and which text learners natural language. Capacity can be nurtured rather than making a systematic attempt to teach the language bit by bit. For some methodologies, there is no contradiction in saying this and at the same time saying that. TBLT can also be complemented by explicit instruction in grammar and vocabulary for others. Focusing on form is an acceptable compromise. In any case, it is probably fair to say that TBLT is the one method that has support from SLA researchers. Still, the question must always be asked if TBLT is appropriate for all teaching contexts. While learners may well learn effectively using analytic syllables, the adoption of such a syllable may be particularly difficult in situations where the success of language instruction is judged by examination containing grammar and vocabulary systems and questions. Nevertheless, we have seen that task-based instruction can help to encourage the students to use the target language actively and meaningfully. Therefore, if you decide that TBLT is appropriate in your teaching context, what happens? What appears to you about task-based instruction? What reservation do you have? How would you go about choosing tasks? Can you imagine challenging in your task-based class? If so, how would you address them or plan to make the most of the opportunity in task-based teaching while working effectively with the challenge?
Alright people, time is over. Now, let's see our conclusion. Here we go.
this is a group conclusion. Our conclusion. According what is exposed, it is clear this method has strived to find out whether or not the TBLT method can set student analytic activities focus on acquire the English language through in creating their achievement score on different skills, and also seek for insights or glitch that can be overcome by the teacher strategies and students' activities. In these methods, the teacher tries to facilitate students' language learning by engaging them in a variety of tasks that have a clear outcome, and that is exactly what happened in the previous example. And more else, students are motivated by doing tasks that prepare them for the real world, getting as a result good preparation because of their analytical performance. So these the tasks are meaningful and relevant, but then students get over all their performance. They can see how the task relates to possible situations in their lives outside the classroom. Also, there is no doubt that the TBLT is supported by SLA, and at the same time is shown this method is theoretically shaped by the contributed learning theory, so it's influenced by those method combination. As is observed, it is better for student learning in terms of English language learning because in these scenarios, students acquire the knowledge by themselves and the teacher supports, and this means that it will be significant learning developed by the class analytic activities.